Tara Buck. We are going to continue our discussion about medication management. So one last question as we're talking about medication. At class we've been hearing a lot about CBD oil. Can you speak to that and whether or not it's a promising kind of new option or?
Yeah, this is a really good question. There's a lot of states that are looking at legalization of both medical marijuana, and CBD oil is becoming more readily available. And originally these treatments were being looked at to treat adults that have chronic pain disorders. And also in children who had treatment refractory seizures, they were initially looking at some of these treatments. And I think what's challenging right now is that the push to try some of these complementary treatments is moving quicker than the evidence. The evidence is really lagging behind. And so I think it's important that we really start to study some of these complementary treatments more. But right now, there are enough concerns that we can't really recommend using these kinds of treatments in children with autism. I know that a lot of parents of children with autism will seek out treatments like this, and so it's quite common, and I think it's important for parents to speak with their physician about it so they can monitor the child if they're going to consider something like this, make sure they're not having side effects to it. But the evidence is not strong enough yet for us to globally recommend these types of treatments to children with autism, either for core symptoms or for emotional behavioral disorders. So hopefully we'll learn more about it and be able to move forward and study it more. But right now, I would say look at it with caution. One of the concerns I have, specifically with medical marijuana, is that we've looked at teenagers that use marijuana, and there's actually a higher risk of developing psychosis in those teenagers. And so I think it's important that we look at that some more and understand how these treatments affect the developing brain, because I think with shorter studies, we've seen some issues with lower cognition and memory problems with using some of these treatments. So, but it is important to recognize CBD is different from marijuana. Marijuana actually has the THC in it, and CBD does not. But yet we still have pretty limited evidence in using these options.
So it sounds like medical marijuana is kind of a bigger decision given the side effects. And when you say psychosis, you mean like schizophrenia type?
Yeah, like hearing things, seeing things that aren't there. So that's pretty concerning. And there's a concern that maybe certain individuals have a genetic predisposition to developing that, and that there's something about the marijuana that's turning on a gene and causing them to develop this psychosis. So that's potentially very serious. And so I think it's something we really need to look at more, for sure.
More research, approach it cautiously.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that a big part of what you do is those comprehensive psychiatric evaluations. I would imagine that would put you in a place to direct parents to other resources based on the findings that you have.
Definitely.
Could you speak to some of the options that you typically will send people to?
Definitely. So we really love taking a look at the whole family and what are their individual needs and how can we point them to community resources to support them. And Oklahoma actually has some really great resources. One that we utilize a lot is called Sooner Success. This is a statewide advocacy organization that provides resources in the family's community. And so Sooner Success actually has coordinators in several Oklahoma counties, and a parent can call. They technically serve anyone up to age 21 that has either a mental health disorder or developmental disability. So it's most of the kids that we serve in our clinic. But a parent can call and ask information about resources for providers, treatment providers, different community resources. They can get assistance with applying for any state programs or funds. And so they're a really great resource statewide, and they're completely free. And so their website is soonersuccess.ouhsc.edu. Some other really great organizations I'd love to highlight. One that we have here in Tulsa is called TARC, but they do serve individuals all over the state, and they are a large advocacy organization that provides a lot of resources for parents. They have a parent support group, and they also provide resources for adults with disabilities. And they really arm, parents with information on how to advocate for their children. And then, of course, we also have the Oklahoma Autism Network. They do some really great work and keep a resource of providers in the state. And they also do a yearly autism conference, which is really great. And the Oklahoma Family Network is more of a peer-to-peer support where they will match a parent up with another parent that has a child with a similar disability. So these are just some examples of some of the great resources we have in Oklahoma, and sometimes I think people just aren't aware of all of these great resources, but all of these are free and accessible on websites that parents can look at online.
Yeah, easy to feel isolating sometimes, so it's important to stay plugged in. And,
Exactly.
Well, this is all great information. I really appreciate you walking us through some of these questions that we have about medication, and thanks for all you do for the community, and appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.